Let me share something with you. I really don't know a whole lot about how blockchain works, but Peter's excited about today's story. So join me and John while I decide if I agree on today's not so critical update.
Hey guys, so yeah, this is an interesting story. It's well, the headline is that blockchain is making domain names more private for good or bad. And I mean, the kind of the article doesn't really follow the headline, I'll be honest, but it's all based on a threat report that was put out by Microsoft recently called the Digital Forensics Report or something like that. Digital Defense Report, thank you. It's really good, by the way, very long, but great. One of those long annual report type things that big companies put out. And it talks a lot about the kind of standard threats, ransomware and all that, but it also had a section on blockchain domains. So blockchain domains are like normal domains, but they have non-standard TLDs, so .bit or .baker or .crypto or something like this. And things which can connect to that blockchain are able to look up the IP addresses as a ledger entry in the blockchain. There are some companies like OpenNIC who are acting as registrars where you can go and register a domain. And once it's registered, you own it. And if it's assigned to your wallet, then you can make changes to it. Most people, I think, stick with the registrars themselves because it's a pain to kind of have it assigned to your wallet and whatever. But the point is, and the reason it's interesting when it comes to InfoSec is that malware can use the domains, the blockchain domains, to communicate. And if there is a part of the malware which is able to connect to a blockchain and then look up domains there, then you can find an IP address and it will circumvent any kind of standard filtering process that's in place. And if it will also be able to, the hackers themselves can control where the domain points to. So if it points to example.bit points to some C2 server and it gets taken down, they can just change the DNS entry themselves because they have control over the wallet, and then it will point to another IP address, and they can still the malware itself doesn't have to change any of the settings. So it's pretty. It's not in common use. There's a couple of pieces of ransomware which are using it, but there's a lot of potential for bad stuff to happen. So yeah, that's my quick summary. What do you think?
So overall good or overall bad?
Overall bad. I mean, we don't need them. Who needs a? It's. I come from the days when there were like 4 TLDs and all this .info rubbish was just a twinkle in the milkman's eye, and I don't know. I guess the blockchain domains themselves are people like having names on the internet, so that's where they came from.
Well, let me ask you this. So from the way you described it, if I'm understanding everything correctly, it sounds like the security of the domain is as strong as the security of the wallet holder.
Yes, that's true. But although in the registrar's cases, that's they are in control. It's their wallet, so you update the domain via their service. So like OpenNIC actually did allow registrations of the .bit TLD, and at some point they decided not to do that. 2019, they said, this has such a potential for malware that we're not going to be responsible for it, and they shut it all down.
Wow.
And this is like a completely parallel DNS system, right?
Yeah.
And you can only access it through certain browsers. I know we talk about Brave browser oftentimes on the show. That's one of the browsers that supports it. Does that put it?
I tried it in Brave, by the way, and it didn't work for me. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if that functionality is enabled on all platforms, but yeah, I gave that a go.
So does that mean it's like completely outside of any kind of filtering or blocking or?
Yeah,
it sounds like this could be easily abused. and dangerous.
That's the whole point. And that's why Microsoft called it out in their digital threat defense report. Thank you, John. Yeah. There needs to be a company which does DNS filtering for blockchain domains, and there doesn't exist. None exists at the moment. So yeah.
Is that possible?
Mike, for anybody who's watching who doesn't know the little private joke going on here, Mike and I work for a company called DNS Filter, and that's what we do. And John is an ex-colleague, so it's all a bit, yeah.
Well, it's an honest question though. Like, if it's outside of the normal DNS system, like, does it use the same protocols? Like, can you tap into this kind of DNS?
I mean, it's a ledger entry in the blockchain. So there's some bit of information that says, and it's immutable, it'll never go away, that says this domain points to this IP address. And then to update it, you have to have some kind of centralized place where it points towards the latest version of that. So if there will be a later transaction added, which will change the IP address to point to someone else. I'm not a blockchain expert. I think John's probably,
Well, I don't know. I'm also extremely ignorant to this new.
Yeah, so this is why we should be talking about it on our show, because
we don't know anything. Because
I opened with I don't know anything about it, so I probably sound stupid even asking these questions.
Well, it sounds to me, honestly, it sounds pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, because I'll tell you why. Because you mentioned that there is a central authority, okay, like a registrar, who handles all of the updates and updates coming from the wallet, and updates it accordingly. So really, that's your biggest target, right? Because wallet security in general in cryptocurrency is pretty good. Like, sure, people are getting phished and scammed into handing over their crypto, but like,
fundamentally they are pretty secure. Although one of my favorite quotes that I see every now and again is that every cryptocurrency has a built-in bug bounty, because if you find a security vulnerability and are able to access people's wallets randomly, then you've won that bounty quite
self-service.
Yeah.
So okay, that's true, but from what I understand, sans quantum computing and breaking something like SHA-256, like you're not going to be able to get into people's wallets unless you somehow convince someone to give the private seed or the passphrase, which is usually the same thing, or one and the same. So to me, it sounds like these domain entries are probably fairly secure. It falls on the registrar, whoever that is, I'm not sure, to be just as or more secure.
Right. So here's where it relates to standard DNS internet architecture. And this is a subject I get boring on very quickly. So I apologize for what I'm about to say, because you're probably going to glaze over. Basically, there's a lot of debate online about how much influence the registrars themselves should have on the domains being registered. It's a little bit like, how responsible are they for the domains that are being used for abuse online, like ransomware or whatever? Is it the responsibility of the people registering the domains to filter and block and regulate that kind of stuff, or is it some other technological thing, or is it just anarchy? Is it like, should no rules be in place and you filter based on the content somehow? That doesn't stop malware, but the reason it relates to the standard internet architecture is because this is something that comes up with how much responsibility do we give, for example, the public interest registry, which controls the .org, or who is it now? Network Solutions, or I don't know, someone who does the .com domains. Are they responsible for it? I mean, there are so many domains being registered; it's practically impossible, and it's so easy for them to, you can register a domain and have it dormant for a month.
Yeah.
In this article, the guy who runs the one of them was going on at one of the blockchain DNS registrars, was going on about how they have like brand protection and they do, you know, copyright protection, and it can be shifted if it's hosted with them and blah, 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 you know, but ultimately they're not going to be able to keep up.
So I think that overlaps with the question I have. The article so the title of the article talks about privacy. The content of the article focuses on the security of it. One of the points they make is that there are maybe legitimate use cases where you would want to be able to just generate essentially one-use domains. And with a system like this, I could have as many domains as I want in my wallet, and that is fine. Is there an opportunity here? Or so maybe generally, what is the privacy impact? And is there opportunity to kind of create this dark web segment that criminals can use to do naughty things or whatever?
That was good, Mike. That was good. Yeah, yeah.
That's how I assume the dark web works. Is that everything I know about the dark web I learned from Letterkenny? So
just those naughty scamps doing, you know, let drugs and guns, you know. Yeah, there's a lot of potential, but that's one of the things about privacy is that, you know, bad guys can use it too. For me, I think the key thing is that it's circumventing protections that have been built up around standard DNS, and that's the biggest problem. And the fact that a piece of malware can remain static and have hard-coded a command and control server, and then be able to find out what the latest one is because it can connect to a blockchain, is difficult to overcome.
So this isn't going to bypass necessarily on-device antivirus software, but any kind of firewall system, firewall blocking, network level content filtering, DNS level content filtering, all could be essentially bypassed.
Yeah.
Today,
but the same could be said using the Tor network, or I'm pretty sure the same could be said for the IPFS network. This isn't new stuff. Circumventing traditional DNS isn't new. You know, this is not something hitting just the IP, the oldest way in the book. This isn't
a difference though? You know, you are in security. I assume for some of those other things, you have to download a piece of software to be able to access that. This feels a little bit different because we've already got the browser software on our computers. What as a security admin would you be worried about in a case like this?
Well, okay, so let's break it apart and start with the beginning of what you said with the first thing, the first part of what you said, which is you have to download an additional piece of software, right? So one thing that these authoritative DNS providers could do, like, you know, Google or Quad9, we've spoken about them a couple of times, or any major DNS provider, they could just not recognize crypto or blockchain related domain names. That's fairly simple stuff and could solve this whole problem. I see Peter is itching to say something. Let's hear it.
It's not like that though. What's
Why
happening
not?
is that the malware. Sorry. Why not?
Here we go. Okay, guy who knows something.
God, sorry. It's because they're connecting to the blockchain. So the ransomware or the malware is connecting directly to the blockchain. The malware carries the tech to be able to access it all. So Google can ignore and the blockchain domains, but they're not being contacted. They're not involved in the equation.
But can that be blocked maybe at the browser level? Like where is the opportunity to block this? Or is it completely outside of existing? I mean, it's using DNS essentially to return an IP address. Is it a DNS protocol or is it something different?
At the registrar level.
Right.
Okay.
So you're saying that Google could, or whatever resolver, could block access to the registrar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not even block, just ignore. Yeah, they don't need to recognize this. They can just say, we don't recognize you. And that's that. Not that I think that should be a thing. I'm just thinking of ways like what Mike asked, at what level. And I'm not even sure what browsers, if any, because I have not messed with any of this. I'm not positive on any of it. So to be honest, I would have to do a little bit more research before we can really say how bad this is. I'm coming in quite blind to this topic.
Yeah, sorry. This is sorry, I think I just broke up there.
Yeah.
It is cool to see some adoption of blockchain. I think blockchain is a very cool technology.
Why? Why do you think that it's a very cool technology? Yeah, why?
Maybe
what are the
because I
practical
don't know anything
uses of
about
blockchain?
it. I don't know. No, I like the idea that it's self-verifying. I like the idea that it's completely distributed. That it is unique. Am I mistaken in those assumptions?
Oh, also, I have a solution for your malware problem. By the way, I just fixed this. And how long have we been in this call for? 15 minutes.
Microsoft are going to be happy about
this.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what if I was to implement something like this? I would use a consensus model. Yep. Take notes. I'm only going to say this once.
Consensus model.
Well, think about it, really, because if you have a voting system in place. Okay, if I'm a bad guy and I'm hosting malware or ransomware or whatever, utilizing the blockchain DNS whatever system we want to call this, yeah, that's like there now. That's not going away. And how do you solve this? Is someone finds them and they send out a proposal to basically blacklist this IP or this, so whatever it might be. And when enough votes, they'd have to set some arbitrary number of votes that it'd have to go through. Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? Once that gets approved, then they get removed from the registrar.
So the blockchain itself would have to introduce some kind of like blacklisting technology as part of the blockchain.
They already have that whole 51% system.
But it's not how people can't do that easily, and there would have to be some distributed voting of that. Yeah, it's an interesting idea, but we got okay, all right. I'll get in touch with Microsoft and
hit up Bill. Okay, hit up Bill.
Yeah,
reach out to Melinda if you can't get a hold of him.
Well, it's good, these days it's instant communication. Just Bill, he's listening right now.
Yeah, he's always listening.
So I guess we'll regroup on this when.
Yeah.
Apparently, any of us knows more about blockchain.
Yes.
All right. Well, good conversation, guys.